Embargoes, NDAs, how do reviewers get devices early? How do journalists get devices early? So this is something that gets asked all the time. Whenever a new device is launched, you'll see people taking screenshots of their subscription feeds where all of their favorite tech reviewers have posted their first impressions and hands-on with the device, and people will be like, what's this? Do you have some sort of a secret club? I guess you could call it a secret club because it is very, very secret. So now I'm going to kind of break down, or try to break down how this works. So essentially, whenever a brand is going to release a new product, they obviously want as much hype for this product and as much coverage as they can get, organic coverage for this product as possible. So what they'll do is they will invite a select few trusted reviewers, whether they be on YouTube, whether they're journalists, to have an early look at devices. However, before they have this early look, they need to agree to an embargo and they need to sign an NDA. An NDA is a non-disclosure agreement, which essentially says that if you do leak any information and it comes back to you, then you can get sued, and you can get sued big, right? I've seen some big figures on some NDAs before where you're like, yeah, I'm not sure I really want to sign this because on the off chance if something was to happen, you'd be in a lot of trouble, right? And then the embargo is the time when you agree to, so maybe it will be 3 p.m. GMT. After that, you can post what your first impressions of this device. Sometimes there's multiple embargoes, so there might be the initial hands-on embargo, then there might be the full review embargo. Maybe the brand is going to be pushing some software updates, after the first hands-on. So they're like, hey, you need to hold back your review until these all come through. So the full review embargo will be maybe at another time. So that's generally how it works, and this is something that we experience on a very regular basis. And in terms of how we actually get these, it's a case of, again, if you are a trusted reviewer and people brands see you as valuable for coverage of their devices, organic coverage of their devices, they're pretty confident in their product generally, so they know that any coverage you do will be beneficial to them, even if there is some constructive criticism and potentially some negative feedback there as well. It's still going to be overall benefit for them. Now I'm going to ask you a question, E. Have you ever heard of a time where somebody's broken embargo, or obviously we're not going to be doing any name dropping here, but one of the things that we do have in NDAs generally is that if something is already out there in the public domain that's not being leaked by you, so like for instance, I've covered leaks and rumors of the S21 Ultra before it was released. Now I didn't actually have I didn't have my briefing etc before that, but generally speaking that would be something that might be considered problematic. But if there's anything that's out in the public domain, you are okay to cover that, right? It's only if it's something that you yourself go ahead and leak, then that's when it becomes problematic. Do you know of situations where people have intentionally or unintentionally broken embargoes? He's putting his hand up there. Go on. Tell us more.
So I have unintentionally broken an embargo, and this was with I won't mention the brand, but I had covered the product a day before. I was spending 3 days with the brand. I went to their head office, and it was just a hands-on, but there was this set embargo for it in time. What was really funny about me breaking this embargo is because I covered the product, made my video, I said it, and so because I flew to the West Coast, my laptop time was different from YouTube time. So
Whoops.
So my timing went off, and then I was having dinner with the execs, and we're sitting down, we're having dinner, they're asking me different questions, and the funny thing is, the exec looked at it, and he goes, "Oh yeah, oh man, that video looked great, man. Like, it's live." I was like, "Oh, I didn't even know it was live yet." And he's like, "Yeah, it's fantastic. You did a really good job. I like the video. It's pretty cool." He's like, "I'll have to watch it later," and I'm thinking, "No, it's all good." I had no idea. Next minute, I'm getting phone calls from the PR team. They're panicking. They're just
What did you do?
they're going, "Dude, dude, you need to take it off. I was like, oh, but I just showed the exec. No, you got to take it off now. I was like, I'm sorry. And then the exec was asking me what happened. I was like, I just put the video live before it was supposed to go live. He's like, it's okay. I mean, I was lucky I was around them there where
Okay. All right.
that kind of passed through. But the thing about it is, what I've noticed with brands is if they can tell that you did these things unconsciously or it wasn't planned, and they are forgiven. I do have friends in the industry who've posted videos live, and I've gone like, dude, you need to take that down. And brands have seen that too. And yes, there's an initial anger at that point just because it's not supposed to happen. But usually the brands are like, we know it's not you. We know you didn't do that on purpose because that's not your thing.
Yeah.
But there are some ramifications. In those cases, in my case, there was none. In the other cases, it was more of the brands were just a bit hesitant for a little bit. It's almost like you just gotta show us that you won't be doing this again.
Okay.
Yeah.
No. So the thing is, so thankfully I have never broken embargo. I get really paranoid, and I go to a point where I don't even like schedule videos. A lot of the times, I'll actually put it live after I've seen everybody else has put theirs live, just to be safe, because I get very stressed for things like this, especially when it comes to embargoes. So thankfully, I've not done that, but. Mistakes can happen, especially when you're working with 12 different time zones. Because, when you have an international launch, especially, they're like, okay, there's one going on. Like, okay, they'll give you this time. And then, when you've got daylight savings, which is the stupidest thing ever, by the way, stick to one consistent timeline, either +1 or not, whatever. Just stick to one and just keep it throughout the year, because that makes things even more confusing. So then now I've kind of worked out a method of like, okay, I'll triple check, and I'll usually ask the brand as well, can you give me the time in in UK time? Just give me it in plain English in writing so I know what it is.
There's so many times, I was going to say, there's so many times that I have asked, I will call Saf and ask him like, yo, what time is this again, man? And then I'll send a message to David. I send like to 3 people.
Yeah, we just like kind of just
Okay,
make
please.
sure triple, quadruple check just in case. But I was gonna say, yeah. So I mean, I have heard of people doing this by mistake. Generally, it's if it's nothing too major, then it's it's a slap on the wrist just to make sure you don't do something like that again. I have heard of others being blacklisted, so that brand will be pretty serious about that. They are no longer going to get early access anymore. So I've heard of that happening, and I once heard, again, I don't know if this was rumors, but I once heard of a particular a creator who got fined as well. And as far as I can remember, again, this is not based on any specific information, but this is something that I heard somebody talking about, which was that creator was fined in the region of around $20,000. Does that sound right to you, E? Or
Nah, that's a bit too much. I mean, to me, most of the major NDAs that we get are from bigger brands, and they can afford to stomach even the early release or early announcement. Remember, most of the things about NDAs, it's not about controlling reviews. I want to just clarify that with people here.
Yes.
There's no control of reviews. It's controlling the hype of the product launch. That's what you want to do, which is why you see staggered reviews or staggered NDAs sometimes of different products where, I can give you an example. I don't know what the process is there with Apple, but you tend to see different creators release videos at different times because everyone's given maybe devices at different times, for instance, right? So that's something you always want to look at, is that it just helps create hype. If you think about it from your own personal perspective, if you owned a company, you created this awesome product, the one thing you don't want to do is just flood the whole market with tons of reviews and then it kind of dies off or it just feels watered. It's like buying the PlayStation 5, right? Slowly, you can't find it. You can't find it. You can't find it.
It's also they don't want the news to become live before they have their announcement. They spent a lot of time, money, effort arranging their keynote, and they don't want Usually, I think embargoes will be an hour after a keynote. So it's just like, hey, we've spent all of this time. We want to present our devices ourselves first, which is totally understandable, before everybody else goes out and does it. And the other side to that as well is it puts other reviewers at a disadvantage, because I've seen previously, like, somebody once went an hour early with a device and broke embargo again because of miscommunication. But it was actually a big disadvantage to everybody else who was posting an unboxing of that device, because we were an hour late, which meant that the algorithm obviously favors the first video and pushes that video, and that video was on hundreds of thousands of views, and then our videos all got hit, because how many unboxings are you going to see? So if everybody's already seen that one unboxing, then it does have a knock-on impact. So what I'm trying to say is, breaking embargoes is not good. It could potentially result in you being blacklisted, so you would not be invited again to early briefings. It could result in something even worse, as a fine. I mean, if you've signed that document, then you could well be liable for damages, especially if you go quite early and kind of ruin that surprise element. So don't break embargoes. I hope you enjoyed that clip. If you want to hear the full podcast episode, then that will be linked down below. And if you want to see more clips like this, then be sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you don't miss them. Thanks for watching. This is Saf on SuperSaf Speaks, and I'll see you next time.